All right, let's jump right into it. Welcome to today's Explainer, everyone. We are doing an absolute deep dive into the wild booking choices, the intricate match psychology, and the explosive fallout from WWE Clash in Italy 2026. This event was a genuinely fascinating case study in how wrestling promotions try to juggle multiple audiences at the exact same time, all while delivering some pretty shocking moments in the ring. So we're going to look at the flow of the card, dissect the move execution, and predict exactly where these major storylines are heading next. And that brings us to the massive elephant in the room hanging over this entire event. How exactly did WWE balance entertaining those diehard fans in a super loud, energetic arena while actively trying not to alienate casual viewers who are tuning in via a massive new ESPN broadcast? It is a really tricky tightrope to walk, you know? Do you rely on those classic storytelling tropes that hardcore fans know inside and out? Or do you risk completely confusing a new viewer who just paid a $30 premium to watch on a new platform? We're going to break down how that specific dynamic completely affected the flow, the finishes, and the future of every major storyline on the card. Here is our roadmap for today. We'll be moving chronologically through the card, opening with a stumble, shenanigans and surpassed expectations, a masterclass in chaos, a mid-card title change, and finally, the tribal combat climax. Let's get right to it. Starting off with Section 1, opening with a stumble which focuses on the undisputed championship match between Cody Rhodes and Gunther. Okay, so the atmosphere for this match was actually unbelievable right out of the gate. The Italian crowd was totally electric. I mean, they were singing Gunther's theme and literally belting out every single word of Cody's entrance music before the bell even rang. For the first few minutes, we were treated to some really solid 50-50 wrestling and beautiful chemistry between these two. But then, at around the 11-minute mark, right when they were building the Lego blocks of a truly great match with Cody hitting a Cody cutter, Cody suddenly hits a crossroads and just pins Gunther. The finish? Gunther's foot was under the bottom rope. Now, hardcore WWE fans recognize this lazy blind ref trope immediately. We know it's a setup to protect the loser and spark a rematch. But think about the casual ESPN viewers tuning in for the first time. They just dropped $30? To them, an abrupt, 11-minute, anticlimactic finish where the referee somehow misses a giant foot on the rope, it's confusing and it honestly might make them deeply regret their purchase. So, looking at the overall vibe check for this match, despite the crowd energy peaking super early with those amazing entrances, the energy completely deflated at that finish. The community ratings settled at a pretty generous 3 out of 5, marking the overall result as a disappointment. The match flow simply felt incredibly rushed. An undisputed title match of this caliber, featuring two absolute master tacticians, needed at least another 6 to 8 minutes in the tank to truly deliver on its promise and justify opening the card. So where do we go from here? Looking at how this logically builds going forward, Gunther claiming the ref didn't see my foot is a notoriously weak narrative to spark a rematch. But hey, it's the catalyst we've been given. Looking ahead to the Saudi Arabia event in June, we still have the looming Sami Zayn factor that wasn't even utilized in Italy. It's highly logical to predict this specific booking choice builds into a sprawling summer trilogy, potentially culminating at Night of Champions in July, and dragging Sami Zayn right into an increasingly chaotic title picture. Shifting gears a bit, let's look at Section 2, Shenanigans and Surpassed Expectations. This was Rhea Ripley defending the Women's Championship against Jade Cargill. Honestly, the expectations following their WrestleMania clash were already high, but these two completely blew them out of the water here. Looking at the match flow and psychology, Jade heavily dominated the first slow-paced third of the match. And frankly, it wasn't the most engaging start for the live crowd. But man, the match absolutely ignited during Rhea's energetic comeback. We saw phenomenal move execution and just pure strength from Rhea, including this utterly amazing spot where she had Jade in an electric chair, fell backward over the top rope, smacked her neck on the apron, and somehow still rolled through to toss Jade right back into the ring. And the ring psychology? Flawless. Rhea was selling Jade's DDT beautifully, making every single offensive maneuver look incredibly devastating. Then came the finish. And wow, was it delightfully convoluted and heavily reliant on classic storytelling tropes. Let's walk through it. Step 1. B-Fab and Mission create a distraction on the apron. Step 2. Jade capitalizes with a massive pump kick. Step 3. The referee actually halts the 3 count because B-Fab scrambled to pull Jade's leg to the rope, except she visibly botched the execution and missed the rope entirely. Yet the ref still stopped the count. Seriously, contrast that eagle-eyed, super accommodating ref to the completely blind ref we just saw in the Cody match. Anyway, Step 4, Charlotte Flair interferes, takes out the lackeys, and perfectly places Rhea's foot on the ropes after a jaded. Step 5, Rhea capitalizes on the total chaos to secure the win.
So what is the logical next step here? Well, we look at the Queen of the Ring bracket, and surprisingly, they booked Jade versus Charlotte in round 1. That is a totally crazy booking choice for an opening round match. The smartest prediction here is that neither of these powerhouses actually needs to win the tournament. This opening match is likely just a spicy setup for a double disqualification. That specific booking protects both of their momentums, keeps them looking super strong, and paves the way for a massive, headline-worthy triple threat match at SummerSlam between Rhea, Jade, and Charlotte.
Moving right along to Section 3, a masterclass in chaos. Brock Lesnar versus Oba Femi. This was a 6-minute car crash match that felt like a 15-minute epic crammed into a highly explosive, non-stop sprint. Just look at this takeaway derived from the post-show analysis. The hard cam was shaking. Get ready for a balls-to-the-wall 1,000 miles an hour match. The Italian crowd was so unglued that they actually hummed Brock Lesnar's theme song during his entrance. The sheer volume and electricity of that live audience physically shook the arena cameras. This specific crowd reaction heavily influenced the match, elevating a short, brutal brawl into an absolute instant classic.
7. That is the magic number here. It took an astonishing 7 F5s for Brock Lesnar to finally keep Oba Femi down. Brock hit 4 right off the bat, and Oba just kicked out. Oba even picked Brock up straight out of a Kimura lock. Through this intense pacing, Oba was treated like an unstoppable horror movie villain, literally popping up from a countout attempt on the outside with zero struggle. To put that into perspective, historically, it took just 1 F5 to beat a reigning champion like Kofi Kingston in 5 seconds. 1. It took 7 to stop Oba Femi. The booking logic here is just brilliant. Even though Oba lost and his undefeated streak officially ended, surviving this epic finisher fest makes his stock skyrocket to the moon. He lost absolutely nothing in terms of momentum, and it proved without a shadow of a doubt that he belongs in the main event picture. Unsurprisingly, the crowd energy was at its absolute peak, and the community rating is a flawless 5 out of 5. The overall result is a monumental success. It was undoubtedly the best executed match of the entire card in terms of delivering exactly what it promised. The storyline logic practically demands that they book a tied 1-to-1 feud into a last-man-standing tiebreaker for SummerSlam to capitalize on this incredible momentum. Next up is Section 4, Mid-Card Title Changing Hands, featuring Becky Lynch defending against Sol Ruca.
After the absolute chaos of Brock and Oba, the tempo really needed to come down slightly to give the crowd a breather, but the booking here was smart. They gave these two a full 14-minute runway to put on a genuinely great wrestling match. The ring psychology behind the execution of the finish was absolutely fascinating. The Soul Snatcher is a notoriously difficult, gymnastic-style high-flying maneuver. In the past, Sol Ruca has struggled with botches on the top rope. Here, she smartly modified the move into a slow, sure-footed strike starting directly from the middle rope. By slowing the pacing down and adjusting the move execution, she safely locked in a beautiful, botch-free finisher to secure the only title change of the night. It was just a brilliant display of in-ring maturity. Projecting the fallout from this, Sol Ruca effectively separates into the mid-card, where she will logically face challengers like Raquel Rodriguez or Roxanne Perez. But for Becky Lynch, the booking choices get surprisingly confusing. You'd naturally assume she's moving straight into the main event scene, right? Instead, the newly released Queen of the Ring brackets pit her against Liv Morgan early on, which is a puzzling heel versus heel dynamic for someone chasing main event babyface status. It's a storyline thread that we definitely need to keep a close eye on in the coming weeks.
Finally, we reach Section 5, the Tribal Combat Climax. The main event, Roman Reigns defending the World Heavyweight title and the Head of the Table moniker against Jacob Fatu in a gritty, weapon-filled battle.
Contrasting this main event with the rest of the card reveals a pretty stark difference in match structure. We saw the frantic 1,000-mile-an-hour pacing of the Lesnar Finisher Fest earlier, but the main event was built entirely on classic WWE pay-per-view match structures, specifically leaning heavily into the pandemic Roman storytelling trope. What does that mean? It means a very slow, methodical pace, lots of dragging opponents around the arena, including a moment where they literally brawled into the crowd and Roman threw concession stand potato chips at the fans. It featured heavy in-ring trash-talking, with Roman constantly telling Jacob that he didn't need the twins or anyone else to beat him. And true to his trash talk, Roman wins the match totally clean. The finish involved a devastating barricade spear, smashing Jacob's head into an exposed turnbuckle 15 times, and a final spear through a table. Crucially, there was zero bloodline interference. Roman proved his point and validated the classic trope of the dominant champion handling business all alone. However, we do have to acknowledge the disappointment of hardcore fans who expected a massive debut from Zilla Fatu, especially considering how heavily Umaga was referenced earlier in the night. That expected storyline twist just never materialized.
The crowd energy remained pretty steady throughout, and they stayed actively engaged despite the very slow pace of the match. The community rating holds strong at 4 out of 5, making the overall result solid but controversial. Look, Jacob Fatu winning would have undoubtedly created a wilder, more unpredictable summer landscape. However, the sheer execution of this classic Roman Reigns methodical match structure was undeniably solid and successfully capped off the night.
Let's rapid-fire the logical next steps for the bloodline. This Monday, expect a massive acknowledgement ceremony. Through June, Roman will work limited dates and is actually slated to skip Night of Champions entirely. The summer feud looks to be Bloodline versus Bloodline, with the Usos gearing up to battle the MFTs and Solo Sikoa. But that leaves us with a genuine analytical concern. After suffering this entirely clean loss, does Jacob Fatu just become a background character in this larger faction war?
And that is exactly what you should take away from this explainer. We've seen incredible highs, confusing booking choices, and masterful match psychology tonight, examining everything from crowd influence to classic pay-per-view tropes. But with Jacob Fatu's terrifying momentum now hanging delicately in the balance after a clean defeat, what is the shocking next step for the bloodline this summer? It's a question that leaves us desperately wanting to watch the storylines unfold on weekly TV. Thank you so much for joining me on this deep dive. Keep learning, keep questioning the booking, and I will see you on the next explainer.